dropping way possible. Tonight, we're talking about epic aviation fails that absolutely shocked the world. I'm talking about moments that were so unbelievable, so out there they felt like they were ripped from a Hollywood blockbuster. These aren't just stories of things going wrong, these are the moments that literally changed everything. We're diving deep into the history books, looking at the kind of incidents that make you go, wait, that actually happened? From giant airships that met a fiery end to supersonic jets that fell from the sky, these events are the stuff of legends and nightmares. The tension, the drama, the sheer human element of it all, it's intense. And while we're looking at these fails, remember that each one carries a heavy weight, a story of confusion, heroism, and ultimately, tragedy. But here's the most important part, these aren't just scary stories. These are the moments that forced us to get smarter. Every single one of these epic fails became a crucial, albeit painful lesson. They are the reason why flying today is safer than it has ever been. So, grab your seats, put your tray tables up, because we are about to explore the crashes and catastrophes that reshaped the skies forever. You won't believe what's coming. Let's get into it. Alright, first up, let's go way back. Picture it, 1937. The world is obsessed with these gigantic, majestic airships. They were the peak of luxury travel, like a floating Ritz-Carlton. And the biggest, most famous one of all was the Hindenburg. This thing was a beast, longer than 3 Boeing 747s put together. It was the symbol of the future, this incredible German engineering marvel, gliding silently through the clouds. People would stop in the streets just to watch it pass overhead. It was that big of a deal. It had completed numerous transatlantic flights and was seen as the safest way to travel. Then came May 6, 1937. The Hindenburg is approaching Lakehurst, New Jersey, after a smooth flight from Frankfurt. There are crowds gathered, news crews, cameras rolling, it's a whole event. A radio announcer, Herbert Morrison, is there, describing the scene live. He's talking about how amazing it is, what a beautiful sight. But as it comes in to land, something goes horribly, horribly wrong. In a matter of seconds, a spark ignites the highly flammable hydrogen gas that kept this giant afloat. The whole thing just erupts. Suddenly, this symbol of progress and luxury becomes a raging inferno in the sky. It was all caught on camera and broadcast live on the radio. Morrison's famous emotional cry, "Oh, the humanity," captured the shock and horror of the entire world. It took only 34 seconds for the entire airship to be consumed by flames and crash to the ground. This one single, terrifying event didn't just end the Hindenburg. It ended the entire era of passenger airships. Nobody wanted to get on a floating balloon after seeing that. It completely changed public perception and pushed aviation toward the airplanes we know today. Okay, this next one is it's unbelievable. It's the deadliest accident in aviation history, and it didn't even happen in the air. It happened on a runway. Let's set the scene. It's 1977, on the island of Tenerife in the Canary Islands. There's been a bomb threat at the main airport, so all these huge planes are being diverted to this tiny, regional airport, Los Rodeos. It's chaos. The airport is way over capacity, planes are parked everywhere, and to make it worse, a thick, dense fog rolls in. You can barely see a few feet in front of you. It's the perfect storm for a disaster. 2 jets, 2 massive Boeing 747s are at the center of this story. KLM Flight 4085 and Pan Am Flight 1736. They're both trying to get out of this crowded mess and continue their journeys. The KLM plane is at the end of the single runway, ready for takeoff. The Pan Am plane is supposed to be taxiing down that same runway and exiting onto a taxiway to let the KLM jet go. But the fog is so thick, and the airport's layout is confusing. The Pan Am crew isn't sure they've passed the correct exit. There's a lot of back and forth with air traffic control, and the communication is getting messy. This is where it gets terrifying. The KLM captain, who was a very experienced pilot, is anxious to get going. He starts his takeoff roll without getting final, explicit clearance from the tower. Over the radio, there's a jumble of transmissions. The Pan Am crew says they're still on the runway at the same time the co-pilot is reading back instructions. It's a critical miscommunication. The Pan Am jet is still on the runway, invisible in the fog, right in the path of the accelerating KLM 747. The Pan Am pilots see the KLM's landing lights at the last second and scream, but it's too late. The two giants collide in a massive, fiery explosion. It was a catastrophe born from pressure, fog, and words getting lost in translation. Alright, let's talk about the Concorde. I mean, come on, how cool was this plane? It looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. It was the peak of aviation glamour. You could fly from New York to Paris in under 3.5 hours. Faster than the speed of sound. It was the plane for rock stars, celebrities, and the super rich. For decades, the Concorde had a perfect safety record. It was considered one of the safest planes ever built. It was a symbol of what we could achieve. Supersonic passenger travel was a reality, and it was awesome. But that all changed on July 25, 2000. Air France Flight 4590 is taking off from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, headed for New York. Everything seems normal. But during its takeoff roll, the Concorde runs over a small metal strip on the runway that had fallen off another plane that took off just minutes before. It was a tiny piece of metal, something you wouldn't even notice. But it was enough. The metal strip shreds one of the Concorde's tires. The tire explodes, sending a huge chunk of rubber flying into the underside of the wing at incredible speed. This piece of rubber hits the fuel tank, causing a massive fuel leak which immediately ignites. The plane, trailing a giant plume of fire from its left wing, struggles to climb. The pilots fight to control it, but the damage is too severe. Just 2 minutes after takeoff, the Concorde, this icon of speed and safety, crashes into a hotel in a nearby town. The dream of supersonic travel was shattered in that moment. The entire fleet was grounded and, despite modifications, never regained public confidence. The era of crossing the Atlantic in time for lunch was over. Now we get into the modern era, and this one is chilling because it's about a mystery. It's 2009, and we have these incredibly advanced computerized planes. Air France Flight 447, an Airbus A330, is flying from Rio de Janeiro to Paris. It's a routine overnight flight, cruising high over the Atlantic Ocean, out of radar contact, which is normal for that route. The plane is full, the weather is a bit turbulent with some thunderstorms, but nothing an airliner like this can't handle. Then in the middle of the night, it just vanishes. For days, nobody knows what happened. The plane just disappeared. It sent a series of automated error messages, and then went silent. It sparked one of the largest and most expensive search and rescue operations in history. Bits of wreckage were eventually found floating in the ocean, confirming the worst, but the main wreckage and the black boxes, the flight data and cockpit voice recorders, were lost on the deep ocean floor. The whole world was asking, how can a state-of-the-art plane just fall out of the sky for no reason? Theories were flying everywhere. Was it weather, a bomb, a catastrophic failure? It took nearly 2 years to find the black boxes, and what they revealed was absolutely shocking. The initial problem was minor ice crystals had clogged the plane's pitot tubes, the sensors that measure airspeed. This caused the autopilot to disconnect and gave the pilots confusing airspeed readings. In the confusion, the junior pilot at the controls made a critical error. He pulled the plane's nose up, putting it into an aerodynamic stall. The plane was literally falling out of the sky, but the pilots, overwhelmed by alarms and conflicting data, didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. It was a terrifying case of technology failing and humans becoming fatally confused. This last one is probably fresh in everyone's minds, and it sent shockwaves through the entire industry because it wasn't about a single crash, but two. We're talking about the Boeing 737 MAX. This was Boeing's newest, most fuel-efficient version of its best-selling plane ever. Airlines around the world were buying them up. It was supposed to be the future of short-haul travel. Then, in October 2018, Lion Air Flight 610, a brand new 737 MAX, crashes into the Java Sea just minutes after takeoff. Everyone on board is lost. It was a tragedy, and investigators started digging. As the world was trying to understand what happened with the Lion Air crash, the unthinkable happened again. Less than 5 months later, in March 2019, another brand new Boeing 737 MAX, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, crashes shortly after takeoff under eerily similar circumstances. Again, no survivors. 2 brand new planes of the same model crashing the same way, that is not a coincidence. That is a crisis. The world went into a panic. Country after country began grounding the 737 MAX. Within days, the entire global fleet of the plane was forbidden from flying. The investigation uncovered a huge problem. It centered on a new flight control software called MCAS. It was designed to make the MAX fly like older 737 models, but it had a fatal flaw. A single faulty sensor could trigger it, forcing the plane's nose down repeatedly, and the pilots hadn't been properly trained on how to handle it. they were fighting a system they didn't even know existed. It was a massive scandal, raising huge questions about corporate oversight, software design, and the certification process that allowed the plane to fly in the first place. It was a modern failure that shook faith in one of the biggest names in aviation. So there you have it. 5 stories of epic failure, from burning airships to flawed software. It's heavy stuff, I know. Each one of these events was a profound tragedy that cost lives and shook our collective confidence in flying. When you hear about the Hindenburg, the Tenerife disaster, the Concorde, Air France 447, and the 737 MAX, it's easy to feel a little anxious. These stories highlight the moments where technology, communication, and human judgment failed in the most catastrophic ways imaginable. They are stark reminders of the immense responsibility that rests on the shoulders of the aviation industry. But here is the incredible and most important takeaway from all of this. Every single one of these disasters, as horrific as they were, became a catalyst for massive positive change. The Tenerife crash led to standardized, mandatory phrases for air traffic control communication. The Concorde crash led to reinforced fuel tanks and stricter runway checks. The mystery of Air France 447 completely changed pilot training for handling stalls in automated aircraft. And the 737 MAX crisis forced a global re-evaluation of software integration and aircraft certification. These tragedies forced us to create new rules, better technology, and more rigorous training. So the next time you board a plane, think about this. The incredible safety you experience is not an accident. It's a legacy. It has been paid for by the lessons learned from these and many other incidents. Air travel today is statistically the safest form of transportation in the world because we, as a global community, were determined to learn from our most epic fails. It's a testament to human ingenuity and our relentless drive to make the skies safer for everyone. Thanks for watching, and fly